Hello, friends, and welcome to the podcast. I am Joe Jennings. As you know, I am an ex-corporate executive with 15 years of experience in sales, marketing, and advertising. I'm here with my co-host, Christina Nichols.
Hi, I am Christina. I'm an energy healer, also from the corporate world. Just quit my corporate job of forever. I've been in the corporate world for a very long time. Started energy healing 7 or 8 years ago. And I am moving into a space where I'm just doing this full time.
We're thrusting ourselves upon the world of entrepreneurship, for anyone wondering.
Yeah, we joined the club.
Welcome.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, me too. Cool. Yeah, so what I wanted to talk about today is, I want to ask you a question. Give me, what's a fun question?
Oh, I've got one.
You're like the question master.
I do like
I was like, let me ask a
questions.
question, and I didn't have one prepared.
It's okay. I'm always prepared. So I really with questions.
Correct.
I like would you rather questions.
Yes.
I like to come up with the most ridiculous ones. I got this from a comedian named Nicole Byers, and so I'm going to ask you one of her questions.
Okay. I love that. That's already funny because now I'm like, okay, high expectation.
Okay. Would you rather your nose hair grow at an ungodly rate or have to chew a piece of foil every night before bed?
Ugh. So you got to chew foil. So essentially I'm filling in the blanks here. It grows at a rate where I would need to trim my nose hair, like every hour?
It'd be a nuisance.
It'd be like an impediment on my life.
100%.
Or you have to, and I have a metal filling.
Oh, same.
I guess I could chew on the other side of my mouth. I would go tinfoil.
Yeah. I've never eaten foil, but the sound of it makes me really uncomfortable. I think I would go with the foil too, because long nose hair ain't cute on a lady.
I think I've, just being dumb in college, for some reason, had to chew, didn't have to.
Yeah, you're a boy. It makes
chose
sense.
to. And I do remember there's this feeling of when it hits your metal filling, it sends what it feels like an electric shock. It's like, nee.
You know what else this reminds me of? Is science, because we love science.
Yeah, I love science.
Okay. I'm going to do my best to explain this, so stick with me. Okay, your tongue knows what the texture of anything would taste like. So, for example, your tongue will know what the texture of something is. I'm going to name random objects, and you will automatically know what that would taste like if you were to put your tongue against it.
And that's based on me having tasted it before?
Nope. It's just some weird thing, and I don't know how to explain it.
Okay.
I'm sure someone else can.
Yeah, I'm in.
So I'm going to name a couple things. Your tongue on carpet.
What does it taste like, or does it feel like?
Like the feeling. I'm sure you can already identify the sensation.
That. It's like tongue on carpet. Yeah.
It's just like rough. Your tongue on the wood floor.
And that's from having felt it and perceived it with other areas of my body. I could kind of extrapolate that.
I'm guessing, but maybe your tongue's just smarter than the rest of the body.
I'm very fascinated by that. Yeah, so speaking of tongues and textures, I wanted to hop into my topic here that is completely unrelated to that. Yeah, so something that I've been thinking about and I wanted to talk about today is this concept of these 90-day quantum leaps or these 90-day success sprints. And it's essentially the concept that most success is a lagging indicator in the short term of the last 90 days. And so essentially everything that you do over the course of 90 days is going to be seen on that 90th day in that range. So are you familiar with that concept? Or what are your thoughts on that?
No, I'm not familiar. Tell me more.
Yeah, and so it's really, and I broke it into 5 pieces that I kind of want to riff on. And so basically the first one is that success is a lagging indicator. Now, a lot of success, especially large scale success, is a lagging indicator over years. But in the short term, I think the shortest measurement, it's a quarter, essentially. 90 days isn't exactly 3 months, but it's a very easy number to go. If I can lock in for 90 days, it doesn't require a ton of discipline or willpower. It just requires some momentum, and you just keep your foot on the gas. As long as you tell yourself it's just 90 days, you can get ahead way further and faster than most people who aren't thinking about these mini sprints.
So it's a hack.
It's a mindset hack, absolutely. And I think if people can learn this concept, which we're going to go over, and understand that there's so much power in mini long sprints, It's more like you after 90 days you've built a habit, and if you just tell yourself it's only 90 days, it doesn't feel overwhelming. And I remember you're talking about 75 hard, and that's hard for people. It's because going from being someone who doesn't work out twice a day, doesn't drink a gallon of water a day, doesn't read a book every day or whatever, and then it's okay, now you do all these habits. That's hard. Like that requires discipline and willpower. What the idea behind a 90-day sprint is, you identify 3 high rate of return activities and you make sure that you do X, whatever that amount is per week or per day for 90 days. And I like to break things up by weeks because then you can lollygag one day, or you get busy, you can make it up the next day, etc.
Life happens. Yeah, I've been trying to do 2 workouts a day just to speak to this, and I've been trying to do a 30-minute video in the morning, then I'll go to the gym in the evening, and life happens. Sometimes you just can't. And even drinking the gallon of water, I also am trying to drink a gallon of water a day. I'm not actually doing 75 carb. This is just my lifestyle, but it is also hard some days. It's just not always possible. And if you have no discipline, to be expected to go from 0 to hero in a program like that seems so overwhelming. So tell us more on how we can implement this and not be overwhelmed.
Yeah, and what you're describing and what's actually interesting is there's this point of the process. It's called the dip. And the dip is when you go, oh man, I missed a couple days. Like, fuck it. Why am I even trying? Or I've been doing this for 30 days and I'm not seeing results. So you have this, it's the success curve where like it's going, and then you're like, why isn't this working? And it's this bell curve where after this certain amount of time, the horizon appears and you're like, oh, I am seeing momentum. But if you don't get through the dip, so that's why breaking things into weeks I like better than days, because a lot of times if I miss my daily KPIs, I feel bad. But if I know they're weekly, yesterday I was kind of lazier than I'd like to be, and my level of laziness, I think compared to a normal humans, is I did 9 of the 10 things or 8 of the 10 things instead of 100 of the 10 things, right? So it's a self-defeating prophecy that I have to work on. But if you can string together enough weeks of completing all your tasks, you will be able to eventually reach this 90-day summit.
Oh, I like this. I told you I was doing the artist way. Yeah. I understand this, where you hit the middle and you say, like, is there any value in here? What am I getting out of this? And for the longest time, I didn't see the value. And then one day, light bulb went off and I said, oh my gosh, I forgot I'm an artist. I have this capability that I forgot I had. And it really is the aha moment that helps push you through to continue on.
And because you turned me on to the artist way. And if you guys haven't read it, it's phenomenal, especially the morning pages, which is just like a brain dump every morning. It helps a ton. And I'd realized and this is really what happens when you start any 90-day sprint or sprint in general. You're really good in the beginning. You're hitting every nugget. Like, I'm posing questions to myself and I'm getting introspective. And then it becomes a little routine. And then you're like, I'm doing my journaling in the morning. And then you're like, why isn't this as effective? And so it's 2 things. It's there hasn't been enough time that elapsed where you've built the skill or created enough momentum. And then also it's, oh, was I doing this in a way that was more involved or more thorough, that was working before for me? And it's easy to taper off that. It's like that post-it note you put on the mirror and then you forget that it's there because it just blends into the background.
Yeah, especially too when you just skip a day for whatever reason with things. You're like, oh, I'll do it. And then you're 2 days behind, and then you're 4 days behind, and then you're 8 days behind. This has been a habit, like a problem, an issue that I've had in my whole life is trying to keep habits. I don't know if it's my ADHD, but I can break a habit immediately. It's not a problem for me, and I can never look back. So I do want to know, how do we stay on track then? So
and I'm curious, is it the restarting of the habit that then makes you go, well, I already broke it, I have to restart it, so there's no rush to restart the habit? Is that, or what is the impetus for not just being like, okay, I missed a few days, let me just jump back on the train?
Great question. So I just took 4 months off of working out. I usually work out almost every day. I would say at least 4 to 5 days a week. And I just stopped, and I had no interest in going back. I don't know if it's a little bit of burnout or if it was just disinterested. Maybe it was my environment or my program. I didn't really have a good answer, and I just didn't want to do it. I knew I should. I know it's good for me. I know I benefit from it, and I just resisted. Why? Could not tell you. I am back in it though, twice a day.
One thing though I like about you listen to yourself. You're really good at intuitively knowing what's best for you to do at a certain junction in time. Maybe a lot of it is you're competing with your feel versus your logic brain, where logically you know you need to keep doing this habit, but on the unconscious side that you're very in tune with, you know intuitively that this isn't the thing right now. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you say it and it resonates with me. I'm sure that you're right. There was something there that I just needed a rest or break for whatever reason.
Yeah, and there's actually a interesting concept of these. So the CEO of Twitter, ex-CEO, I think, Jack Dorsey, he would have these planned 2-hour gaps in his day. He found that when he just blasted meetings all day and all this work, there was no time to actually have breakthroughs. Like a break is how you get a breakthrough. And I think people can really look at that and go, okay, if I'm not taking time to conceptualize what I'm doing, not working in the business, working on the business, that's where you need those breaks to conceptualize those breakthroughs.
Would you include those break times at the end of the 90 days? What would that look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I haven't even thought about how to build that in. I would honestly look at the breaks. I think that's a daily practice. But if someone wants to do it as just a weekly practice, I think it's good to set aside time where you're literally just, number one, letting your mind run wild, letting your mind just scream into the ether and getting all its thoughts out so it gets tired. And by the way, like just letting those thoughts pass by. So that's essentially what meditation is for. And then I think there should be time where you just go, okay, I'm not working in the business today. Or for this hour, I'm not doing my emails. I'm not doing meetings. I'm not making content. I'm not on sales calls. I'm literally thinking about, what could I do better? What are the pieces that are blocking me from moving forward faster? Those breakthroughs where you identify these bottlenecks are unbelievable. But recently I bought a teleprompter. So I've been struggling to make content, not because it's hard to make, but it's like, I want it to be better. And so, okay, yeah, now I'm scripting it. I'm like, what am I going to memorize 100 scripts a week? No. Like, what's the solution? Oh shit, get a teleprompter. But now I have to build the skill of talking good with a teleprompter. But you're leveling up your problems when you're outside looking in versus inside looking in.
Yeah, I want to just go back to the meditation for a moment because it's such a key component. People always ask, so a little sidebar on meditation. People always ask, how do you stay in meditation longer? And I think you called it out. And it's so simple and people kind of lose sight of what meditation is. So we have this ego mind that's just talking to us nonstop, talking, has so much to say, repeating himself all day long. And you're like, shut up. So when you're in meditation and the ego is just going on and on and on, what I always like to do is I always instruct clients to imagine like your favorite environmental setting. Maybe you're at the beach, maybe you're at the desert, you're in the mountains, you're snow-capped mountains. That's where you want to be. Let's imagine that's your happy place. So imagine you're in the mountains, quiet time, and in the distance is a train, okay? And the train has all these little train cars. And every time your ego keeps talking, you say, okay, I'm just going to acknowledge you with this train. This thought, like the train, is just going to go by. And I'm acknowledging you. We're not going to worry about it right now. Oh, I got to go to the grocery store. I got to get eggs and beans and whatever. You remind yourself, we're going to remember this when we're done. We've thought about it already 100 times today. And I'm just going to watch the thoughts pass. And eventually, the little train, it gets smaller, or you notice there's more space in between. And that's when you're able to get some of these clarifying moments and you come up with these grand ideas, these breaks. I think for everything I've been understanding is any high profile CEO, it sounds like they are all meditating. You were telling me about someone, they meditate twice a day. Was it head of Google?
Ray Dalio.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, he's into transcendental meditation.
Yeah, also known as TM.
TM, yeah. And he attributes his success, and I think he's one of the top 3 most successful hedge fund investors of all time.
Yeah, that's right.
Literally attributes his success to meditation. Like, if that's not a call out for the value of just taking time for your brain to process.
Yeah, because we have everything flying at us all the time. We have not only environment where you have whatever's going on around you, you have people, you have advertisements. Advertisements follow us literally everywhere now, right? And everything's loud, it has a sound, it has colors, it has images trying to grab your attention. We don't ever give the brain a moment to just. So give it a moment.
Yeah, and if you have trouble falling asleep at night because your mind's racing, that's why. Like, give it some time during the day to race, and it can run its course and yell and scream, and a lot of that is it going, hey, you didn't acknowledge me today. I have these things I want to process, but you don't actually need to process them. It just needs to be acknowledged. Yes, I know we need to get eggs. Yes, I know that thing you did 10 years ago made you uncomfortable. Like, just let the crap filter through, and then that's when you can have these scrape breakthroughs.
Yeah, and the last thing I'd say about that is for anyone that says, I don't have time for meditation, I heard Wayne Dyer say this years ago. The people that say they don't have time for it are the ones that should probably do it twice as long.
Yeah, you need it if you don't have time. And just think about how much TV do you watch. So this is, okay, so we talked about the dip and the breakthrough. So then there's the power of focused execution. So you can change almost any area of your life in 90 days with consistent focused action. So think about it, like, you don't get instant results in the gym, but 90 days in the gym, you're going to see it. Well, if you get an offer and you start trying to sell it for 90 days, by the end of that 90 days, you'll probably have made a couple sales. And it's in all areas of life, relationships. If you say you're single and you spend 90 days like concertedly going to places or on dating apps or approaching people to try to find a partner, get numbers and go on dates, you'll put a dent in any activity. 90 days is enough of a timeline to put a dent in your goal. It's not going to get you to the end of your road if your road is big. Like, if I want to get married, I'm not going to do that in 90 days, but I will have a chunk of that piece. I'd have dates lined up. I'd have people that I liked. If I wanted to make $10 million in 90 days, I might have an offer that can fuel the first year of my business. And as I evolve from there, but that jumping off point is really what's so important. Let's move on. So momentum versus motivation, we kind of touched on this. So most people rely on motivation. That's why 75 hard is so difficult. It's like, God, I really have to have willpower to build all these new habits. But when you just have motivation and you've just identified a few key activities that can be done and categorically weekly, KPI wise, then it's just, okay, I just need to make sure I do these things every week, X amount of times. Once you build momentum, it gets easier, blah, blah, blah. And then here's how most people fail and how to avoid it. That's the fifth point. The number one mistake is expecting results too soon and quitting before the 90-day mark. People underestimate how much small, consistent actions stack. So the trick is trusting the process, tracking your effort. Tracking is huge. Write down your KPIs, use an Excel spreadsheet if you need to, and then staying patient. So just imagine how happy your future self will be. That's where you can just go, I don't feel like doing this. How awesome will it be after 90 days when I've proven to myself that I could do this and I can see some results from this work?
Yeah, that's great. I used to work with a nutrition coach, and she would always say to all of her athletes, you have to take photos. You have to take photos throughout every step of the process. At least once a month, take photos of your body. Scale might not change, so you may not see this number that you're looking for, but when you compare side-by-side photos, you'll see the difference in your body. And it's the same idea. It's tracking the progress the whole time so that you can have that reflection point to see, where did I come from? And like, what have I accomplished throughout this whole journey of the 90 days? This can be applied to anything. I think it's imperative to track. It's hard to remember to track.
And one thing that I'm huge on, because I completely agree with you, is especially with workout stuff. Okay, the scale, why does it still say 185? Yeah, it's because you built 5 pounds of muscle mass and lost 5 pounds of weight. Oh yeah, my abs do look better. But I also am a huge proponent of what's called the game of work. And so, not a very popular business book, which I'm surprised. The concept's very simple. I used to work at this healthcare startup, and they were obsessed with this thing called the game of work. And it's basically, winners always know the score. And how do you know you're winning? You need to know what activities to do and how often to do them. And so I've hit a lull in my lifting, and I literally started tracking my PRs on every exercise. And now I'm excited to go to the gym because I'm going to go, okay, cool, let's see if I can beat this PR. And so if you can create those type of wins, well, shit, this week I did 10 pieces of content. Maybe next week I can do 11. And so you're racing against yourself, but you can't do that if you're not tracking it, tracking results, tracking progress.
Yeah, and I think to the tracking part, this goes back to what we were saying on our last episode, intentionality, putting intentionality behind things. It's not just doing it and going through the motions. It's being intentional about what you're doing, intentional about tracking, intentional about taking the steps to success.
Yeah, can you expand on that more? I like that. What is the vanguard of intentionality?
I would say in this regard, you're tracking, so you're being intentional about wanting to see the success at the end of this. So you're tracking because you want the metric, you want the data. And I'm not personally big on data. I'm just feeling things. I'm feeling into the ether. I don't really care about data. But in the moments when you hit the lull or you finish your program, whatever your little program is that you've created for yourself, not little, whatever your program is that you've created for yourself, we don't want to diminish it by calling it little, then you have something to look back on. It's really strategic planning. And as much as someone like me who is type B, I'm a feeler, I don't necessarily care about data, but it is going to be imperative if I want success. There's certain things you just have to do to set yourself up, and it doesn't take long. So I think one rule that I've made for myself as someone with ADHD is if it takes less than 30 seconds, do it right now. Yeah. Actually, I would say 20 seconds is really my measurement. So if it takes less than 20 seconds, just do it right now. You're going to be thankful that you did it right now. And it's the same thing with tracking. Your tracking is probably very quick that you can write down. You don't have to write an essay. Make it work for you. Don't make something so difficult and so unattainable that you're not actually going to do it. Do whatever is going to work best for you.
Yeah, and one thing you brought up earlier to add to that, and I think there's two things I wanted to touch on to put some really good stuff up. So for me, I'm someone who's likely to not hit their goals of the week if I don't have some sort of gamification, which is tracking is essentially gamifying. I'm like, yeah, one more on the board, baby. But you're someone who actually I find is able to get their work done consistently in the volume necessary without a need for a tracker. So maybe what you brought up was being able to look back and see, yes, I have made progress is more important than having the weekly, daily metrics. And then the second thing that I thought was super profound was don't make it super complicated or overly complex. In my past, I would have these trackers with like 47 KPIs. And yeah, if I get all this done, I'll be a bazillionaire in 6 days. I just need to do 9,000 things every single day. Don't do that. Literally, in the beginning of this 90 days, you're allowed to do 3 things. Allow yourself the grace to just go, I'm building 3 new habits. What are the highest rate of return activities that I can do? If I could only do 3 things, what would they be? And then, so in the beginning of my sprint, when we've been working on our collective businesses, there were only 3. And now there's 5. And that's after 90 days. But I realized there's 2 other activities I could do that would move the needle more. But that wasn't until I'd already got used to doing those other activities. If I started with 5, lower likelihood of conversion. If I started with 10, I would fail every week and I would just feel bad and I'd give up.
Kind of like the idea of habit stacking.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
So is that the concept of using one habit to bleed into another habit?
Yeah. So I think a great example of habit stacking for the ladies is probably like when I'm in the bathroom and I'm doing all my beauty routine things, I might be doing one beauty routine while I'm doing the other one. So maybe I'm bleaching my teeth as I'm doing a facial mask. I'm habit stacking these things so I can save time and get them both done. It's like the idea of instead of wasting all of your energy trying to do too many things, you have to do what's going to fit within this amount of time that's going to allow you to be successful, and then you add on another habit.
And that also kind of creates triggers. So I've already built the habit of bleaching my teeth. Okay, now all I got to do is put on a face mask. At the same time, I can't really do anything while my teeth are in this phase anyways. So throw a mask on and chill for a few minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. What are your thoughts on this and how? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, otherwise, if you do add too many things, that's when the burnout happens. And burnout is real. People think that they can just keep going forever and that they're going to be able to just add all the habits. I started day 1. I've done all my 10 tasks I told myself I was going to do. But when you get to day 4, and again, life gets in the way, you probably are going to lose something until it becomes definitive and you can operate in this space of not having to think about doing the things that you need to do.
And that's the whole concept of motivation versus momentum. It's very easy to create momentum with a select few high-level rate of return activities versus going, okay, I'm doing 75 hard. No, I've never read a book or worked out, but now I do that twice a day.
Nightmare.
Yeah, and I've never even attempted 75 hard because I know I would give up. I would be like, yeah, I could do 75 hard if I did one piece of it for maybe a month. Like, what is it? Do you have to work out twice a day on that thing?
I think don't quote me on this, but I think it's 2 45-minute workouts. You have to read so many pages of a book. I think you have to eat really clean. I believe it's no processed foods. Maybe you drink a gallon of water and then maybe go for a walk. I don't know. I personally am doing double workouts. I'm tracking my macros and trying to drink the gallon of water, and I barely have time for anything else.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a commitment. I think it's something that people with a lot more, and then look at me falling into the trap, free time. You could prioritize it if you really wanted to. I have no desire to work out twice a day. I don't even, up until this point of where I started tracking my PRs, which I used to do, I was dragging myself to the gym just to maintain my physique. And now I'm like, why don't you make it a game, bro? Like make some gains. I haven't gone up in weights in so long in terms of my lifting. I'm like, why are you not doing that? What do you do when you're lacking discipline? Like, let's say you have this goal and you're waning on your motivation. What do you rely on?
Old Christina would just give up on the goal. Maybe she would change the goalpost. She would make excuses. I work really well under pressure. And so the deadline would hit and then I would spend all night doing whatever the goal was, right? And that's not healthy and that's not balanced. It's not going to drive success in the future. So current Christina, what she does is when she's lacking motivation is she tries to needle down what the actual issue is. So I'm not motivated. Why am I not motivated? I just keep going down layers by layers by layers in my emotions, my thoughts, my reactions, trying to figure out what the root cause of the thing is. This doesn't always work. It's not always clear to us what our problems are, unfortunately. And so that's when I would go into a hypnosis or meditation for myself and try and do a healing to try and remove some of the blocks, to try and figure out what the barriers are here to my success or not being able to move forward in these goals.
And I'm so happy you mentioned that. It's so much easier to remove a barrier than it is to try to beat up against it until, think about a dam, not you, like, well, everyone, but the listener, listen up. So a dam can hold back a gazillion gallons of water. And maybe if you built up enough water activity, eventually it would start to flow over the dam. But how much time and effort would that take? Versus if you just figured out how to move the dam, then all the water can just flow. You'll hit another dam upstream. But if you're just constantly using effort to get over these humps, every hump you have to use more effort. And that's really, for me in my corporate career, where I hit that burnout point. It took me so much mental energy because I was never removing blocks, and really because I wasn't doing something that I genuinely liked in any regard. But yeah, so that's something to think about. I really like the concept of removing barriers versus trying to push through barriers.
Yeah, we're human too. It's not always easy. Things aren't easy, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be easy. It's okay that it's not always easy. This is when you have to ask for help or find other methods. If you keep trying and nothing's changing, then you need to change. You are the problem, unfortunately, right? We don't want to hear that, but that's the reality.
Yeah, and any problem that you're having, guarantee you there's other people having it. Every entrepreneur is running all the stuff that you're thinking about or that we're talking about. Every entrepreneur has hit this at some point in some direction. And what your superpower can be is if you're someone who actually solves the riddle for yourself, how many people can then you help solve that for themselves? That
was very interesting, Joe. I think we should all be considering what 90 days looks like, how we can fit these new 90-day habits and goals into our lives, and how that can help us be successful in the future. If you have goals, we'd love to hear them. We'd love to hear where you're going, what your plans are. And also, Joe told me this really interesting fun fact, and I love a fun fact, so I wanted him to retell it. It's about people being really smart and forgetting things.
Yeah, so essentially, I think I got this from Jim Quick. He's the guy who had like a debilitating brain injury as a kid. He got hit in the head, and now he's considered the fastest learner in the world. He dedicated his life to learning. But yeah, he said, and I could be misquoting, so drop that in the comment if I'm wrong, the skill of forgetting things, if you're like, wow, I'm so forgetful and you're worried, that's actually something that smart brains are better at doing because they're better at filing information into, is this important or not important, and removing them more quickly. So if you forget things in the short term, it's probably because your brain goes, not important, and just goes goodbye. But that's a skill that smarter brains are better at. Is that the hair flip to be like, I do have a terrible memory, and that's because I'm so fucking
Like,
smart.
where am I? What's happening?
You're like the dude from Memento is the smartest man alive, essentially, because he just forgets literally everything.
And with that, don't forget us.
Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, guys.
Bye.